Hey everyone, I am Justin and that is Kyle, and we are the Fantasy Football Upside. Today, we are talking about fantasy football players' worst nightmare, fantasy bust.
Yes.
So more specifically, we're going to talk about RB bust, running back bust. Sorry, Kyle, not RB bust. There's no bust at Arby's.
Sandwich.
So real quick, we consider a bust as a player who does not live up to expectations due to unexplained ineffectiveness, bad offense, nagging injuries, increased timeshare with somebody, or just straight up benching because the talent is better behind them.
I'm sorry, did you say doo-doo or doo-to?
I probably said doo-doo.
I think I can help with this Pam or Pan situation.
Once again, I do have kids, so I probably say doo-doo a lot or duty, and then I laugh because I am a child at heart. But
and at mine, but we're not
gonna go there.
Sorry.
And grammar, it's all the above. I'm from Indiana. Give me a break. But
it just buzzed like when you said that. Indiana.
And then
it made the accent worse. That's great.
Well, most of these players, once we get back to this real quick, most of these players they're not bad. They just don't live up to those ADP expectations, and in turn, they're labeled as a bust in fantasy. So a bust usually does carry a higher expectation than most of your other players and are the players that you're comfortable reaching a bid for during the draft. And then they fall off the rails while in your lineup. So a little bit of double edge there. So these are the players you remember helping your season implode. When you go to look at the end of the season, what went wrong? These are your busts right here. In the previous episodes from this week, we gave you some great sleepers for running back and wide receiver. So make sure you check those out. There's going to be a thing that goes across the top there. And also go ahead and check the links in the description below. Once again, we talk about this every time. We created this channel to help you win your league this year. And that starts with the draft. And that's why we're spending the rest of this summer just getting you prepared to dominate your draft. So you win your draft to win your league. So before we get going, if you want to learn how to draft to win and what moves to make during the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button, click the bell. If you're watching on YouTube, and give us a thumbs up or a comment. Trust me, if you have a comment or a question, it's going to be answered on there. If you want to shout out, we're going to give you a shout out. Kyle, what else you got for us?
All right. So look, we've been pushing out the content last week. We're doing it again this week. We're going to keep up that pace through the remainder of the off season, all the way up to first week of the season. And then we're going to have a much more set schedule to get you through each week. So you know what waiver moves to make, what guys to target, what guys to avoid, who you should sit, who you should start. So keep an eye out for that. You're watching us on YouTube, but you can also catch us on podcasts. So if you just want to download us and listen to us, maybe you're just tired of our ugly mugs. I'm not sure, but hey, that's all right. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
For the both of us, thank you.
What, they're not tired? just the ugly mug part.
Ugly mug thing.
All right. Well, you know what? You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeartRadio, and the newest one that we're on is Google Podcast. All right. We are still working on the Victory Draft Kit. Keep your eyes peeled for that. That's going to happen here shortly. We'll let you know when that comes. You're going to, again, if you buy early, you're going to be able to get every edition that we publish all the way up to the first week of the season when we stop publishing it. So you'll want to get on that right away so that you can handle every draft that you're involved in, because we know that you're out there playing more than one league, you friggin' degenerate, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to be a degenerate in fantasy football. Yeah. You in particular. Yeah. All right. But anyway, so look, we're going to get you guys helped out this year. We're going to make sure that you can win your draft so you can win your league. And without further ado, we're going to tell you who you should be avoiding like the plague. And we're going to get into the running back busts, and we're going to really, really upset several of you. I am sure you have your heart set on a few of these guys. And these are our opinions, but we're right. So, yeah. All right. So, Justin, who is your first running back bust?
My first running back bust is a former Heisman Trophy winner, Mark Ingram. of the Baltimore Ravens. So Fantasy Football Calculator has him as RB20, 11th pick in the third round. And Kyle, let me tell you why he's going to be a bust. We talk about running backs and we talk about volume. Volume is king. That's going to be an issue. He handled just 37% of the team carries last year. And guess what? Ravens went out and drafted a second-round pick named J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State. Ever heard of him? Pretty good. Yeah. And so with that, last year, not having the carries already, why is that going to say he's going to have more carries this year? He only had 15-plus carries twice all of last year. Feels pretty low for a guy that's going as an RB2 right now. Not only the, handling only 37% of the team carries, his snap share was only 49.8%. He was only out there 50% of the time for your number one running back. That was 34th in the league. So,
well, I think also the part of the problem with Mark Ingram at this point in his career, look, he's over 30, right?
Yeah.
He's one of the older running backs in the league, actually. Like, I think it's just like 2 or 3 guys that are older than him. Adrian Peterson, the infinite one, Frank Gore, and a few, maybe one or other guy or 2 other guys. I'm not sure. But not guys who are getting regular playing time. But I think part of the problem that people are having with Ingram, as far as like valuing him, is that he was hidden and masked last year by Lamar Jackson's running game and running ability.
Yep.
And as a whole, there are a lot of players on that team who could do really well in the running game. And so I think that he was kind of hidden. His liabilities were kind of hidden there. And he was more than willing to cede runs to the other guys. Like, he admitted it. And I think that they drafted J.K. Dobbins for the very purpose of working Ingram out of the offense. So
absolutely. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, like, Mark Ingram didn't really have to do all the work when it comes to getting them there. It was just he got to benefit from the work that was done before him. So even with a high touchdown volume, which I'll get to his touchdowns, he finished as the 30th in points per opportunity at 1.03 points per opportunity. So that just means if some of those touchdowns go away, why do you think that the points per opportunity is going to go up? There's just no reason for it.
Yeah.
So last year, his numbers were, 202 carries, 10 rushing touchdowns out of that, 26 receptions, 5 receiving touchdowns. Those 5 receiving touchdowns were the most he had combined from the previous 8 seasons with the Saints.
Yeah.
He didn't have more than 5 total throughout the whole 8 seasons. I mean,
it's really bad. He's got a low points per opportunity, and then he's losing opportunities, and he's going to have a regression in the TD category, most likely. I mean, we have enough of a sample size on him to be pretty sure of what his normal should be.
Absolutely. And I already kind of mentioned that other players were doing all the league work in between the 20s. All of his rushing touchdowns, they all came within the red zone. So that means he wasn't really busting anything out, which you don't really think of Mark Ingram busting any plays out anymore anyways. So
not for a while.
No. Even then,
in his heyday down in New Orleans, he had some really good seasons. He did. But I mean, he's never, in my opinion, been higher in value than a 4th-round pick. Like, at his career zenith, he was a 4th-round pick. So,
I like the guy. I like the player. I just don't like him in fantasy this year, especially where he's being drafted. We already mentioned J.K. Dobbins. They also have Gus Edwards, who has been a fantasy player in the past. And then they drafted Justice Hill last year as well. So they have 4 running backs in that room that can all play, in my opinion. And I just think that's too many mouths to feed. If I was in a dynasty league or anything like that, I would gobble up some J.K. Dobbins.
Where'd you say he's being drafted?
11th pick of the 3rd round. So the end of the 3rd round, running back 20.
So he's right now over like what his career's high, like his career high draft slot has been, really.
Probably, yeah. Because he's always been a guy that, he has gone a little bit later in the drafts, which is, been able to give you some decent value. I just don't think it's going to continue, and this is the year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, a bust boils down to, are you overpaying for what you're getting? Like, you could have a guy who completely, no matter where you pick him, is a bad pick.
Yeah.
But you could have a guy like Ingram who he's going to bring you some value. I mean, we're not saying he's not going to bring you value, and that's what a bust is. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, at his draft price, you're going to regret having paid that. You really are. So I think
once again, you're going to look back at the end of the season whenever you're in the consolation bracket and figure out where did my season go wrong. Oh, I
draft
picked
day.
Mark Ingram in the third draft day. That whole day I had. That's
Draft
because
day.
you weren't listening
I
to
started
us.
off with some garlic and potatoes, and it just didn't go well from there.
It didn't.
Garlic, onion, and potatoes sautéed. Half
That's what I got on
half pound of bacon.
That's what I got on Mark Ingram. Do you have anything else to add? I think
I
we're both on the same
I
page
think you're
there.
yeah, I think you're right. I think that yeah. All right, now it's time for me to make people mad. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and to
Should
be
I'm going to step away for a second.
Yeah, you might want to step away. The bloodbath is going to it might get on you. There might be a splash or something. Look,
third party splatter.
Yeah, I'm going out on a limb a little bit with both of my picks here.
Yeah.
But I think that if you just hear me out on it and be reasonable, you'll understand why I've got caution about both of these players and why you should turn your attention elsewhere. I'm not saying these guys are going to be terrible. I'm just saying that they're going to bust for their draft position. All right. First one is Nick Chubb.
Ooh.
All right. Yeah, chubby bust. That's what I'm calling for. Chubby bust.
Who's the child? Who's the
Hey, I've got 3 kids too, man. Yeah. All right. So here, like I said, hear me out.
Okay, I'm listening.
Hear me out. Okay. Fantasy Football Calculator has Chubb right now going as RB9, pick 12 of the first round, and Fantasy Pros have him rated as their RB8, and they've got him first pick of the second round. Okay, so here's where my problems are with him. There's quite a few.
Okay.
Kareem Hunt came back in week 10 last year. All right. We've talked about this a little bit before. After that happened, Chubb only finished as an RB2 or better 3 times in the final 8 weeks. Okay. He had a total of 2 rushing touchdowns in those final eight weeks.
Really?
Yeah. So Kareem Hunt, who right now is healthy. Now look, if Kareem Hunt gets hurt, yeah, Chubb all day. Okay. And the whole calculus changes. But with Kareem Hunt on that team,
he's not really a banged up kind of player.
No, he's not.
Kareem Hunt.
No, he's not. But if he gets hurt before the season starts, then yeah, you can just ignore what I'm saying probably for the most part. But there's other issues here. Look, he was number 32 running back or higher in those last 8 weeks 4 times. Okay, so you had a complete bust 50% of the last 8 weeks, and you only got an RB2 or better 3 times. So that's pretty darn inconsistent.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Kareem Hunt was an RB2 5 out of those 8 weeks. So if there's a running back who's performing better behind that offensive line, it was Kareem Hunt out of the 2 when he was there. When they were competing directly with one another, Kareem Hunt was winning that battle. Right now, that line is ranked 20th, but they did add, that's by Football Guys, they did add Jack Conklin, and they did add in the draft Jedrick Wills, I think, or Willis.
It's Will.
Out of Alabama.
It's Wills. I know you want to say.
I think
Willis.
It's Wills. Yeah, you want to say Willis. It just sounds right. It rolls off the tongue.
It just rolls.
So look, like the skills of this line are going to increase as the season goes on, but that's going to take a little bit of time to work out. But again, you're dealing with a potential timeshare, and people are drafting him like he's the bell cow. Here's another big problem that I have, right? And that is, you've got a lot of mouths to feed in the passing game and all that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's balance it and say, okay, well, the running game and the passing game are 2 different things. Let's not, put them together, except there's one position that crosses both always. And that's in the red zone, especially, and that's tight end, right? And who they add? They added Austin Hooper, who is a TD target. They finally went out and they got somebody for Baker Mayfield to throw the ball to in the red zone and in the end zone. And that's going to take away the opportunity near the goal line to some extent. So you're not just getting vultured by Kareem Hunt when you have Chubb, you're getting vultured by Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
So that's another concern here, that people are not giving any credence. Look, Austin Hooper is being overdrafted, in my opinion, right now too, for Cleveland. I don't think he's going to have the same year he had last year, and people are overdrafting him. So I don't think he's going to have a great year, but he's going to do enough damage to Nick Chubb to take him out of the conversation for a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
There's tons of mouths to feed there. Cleveland needs to figure out what they have in Baker Mayfield this season, because at the end of this year, during the offseason, is when they have to determine whether they're exercising their fifth-year option on him. So it's got to happen this year, or they're going to have to figure out whether they're going to move on. And, I don't know what they're going to do. So that would mean that they're going to try to throw to the running backs a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's Kareem Hunt more than it is Nick Chubb.
Absolutely.
Not that Chubb doesn't catch passes. He does. But Kareem Hunt's the guy who's known for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So additionally, they have the 21st worst running back schedule based on last year's points allowed to the running back position.
Okay.
For the opponents that they're facing this year. So look, that could get better, could get worse, but they also have a better QB schedule. They have a top half QB schedule for the very same statistical category.
Okay.
Statistical category, right? Yeah. And so look, if Baker Mayfield does well, it's entirely possible that high tide raises all boats and Chubb has a good year as a result.
Right.
But I just do not see this team getting out of Nick Chubb this year what they want out of him. There's too much going on there to say, I'm going to draft him and he's going to be a bell cow and I'm going to be able to rely on him. He had some really big blow-up games last year, but that was what carried him for the most part.
Yeah.
And so look, with Hunt, they went 4-4. Without Hunt, they went 2-6.
Jeez.
So
yeah.
if there's anybody with half a brain there this year, they're going to look at it and say, you know what, maybe featuring Nick Chubb isn't exactly what we should do. So don't draft him like he's going to be featured. I don't think he's going to.
Right, you want to sprinkle him in there with Kareem Hunt.
So look, I could be completely
in real
wrong.
Football, it's going to be great for the Cleveland Browns, but we're talking fantasy purposes.
What we're talking first round draft pick purposes, right? He's 112 or he's 201. That's where he's going right now.
And we've done mock drafts where he's going like right in the middle of the first round.
Yeah. So like that to me is overdrafting. This is a guy who's I think he's going to finish as an RB2 this year. That's where I think he's going to end up. That's not terrible, but if you spent your first round pick on that guy, you've kind of put yourself behind the eight ball.
You want a stud that is going to.
It's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be the end of the world for you. I mean, you could have a guy who gets hurt that you drafted in the first round, and you can still win your league. But if you can avoid having that problem, you can build a better team. So let's avoid having that problem. All right.
Don't be that
crazy.
Guy.
What do you got on that?
Well, I was just looking up some numbers as well. His fantasy points per opportunity was ranked 82nd in the league last year with 0.73, which basically meant he was getting a lot of the volume before Kareem Hunt came back. So, that maybe pushed down his numbers a little bit. Well, his efficiency didn't really go up once Kareem Hunt got there either, based off what you said and based off how many touchdowns he had. If it was one of those things where he came back and they were able to justify both running backs on the field at the same time and they were both performing, as RB2s or better, then that's a totally different subject. That didn't happen. Yeah. And then, like you said, they've added more weapons. And you have guys, like OBJ needs to get his. He had a down year.
Yeah.
He's going to get his. Jarvis Landry has been one of the most consistent fantasy football players.
He's a volume guy too.
Volume. He hogs the volume. He needs volume to be relevant, and he's going to be relevant.
But he does not catch passes. Like if you throw it at him, and so Baker Mayfield, that guy's the security blanket. Now he's going to realize Austin Hooper is too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just like you mentioned a lot of mouths to feed, but then he was feasting. Nick Chubb was feasting until Kareem Hunt came back from suspension.
And all I see is additional thievery, right? That Kareem Hunt is going to be a problem for him, and then Austin Hooper is going to pile on.
They're probably just going to split series, really. I mean, they're both good third down running backs, 3 down backs. Yeah. So it made sense for the Cleveland Browns.
I'm not saying the guy's bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the guy's bad. No. What I'm saying is that he's in a situation that for fantasy purposes, it lowers his value to you.
This
is clearly a guy who could be the featured bell cow running back. Yeah. He very clearly could. He demonstrated that last year until Kareem Hunt came. And then they're like, well, wait, this guy's really good too. Imagine that. Let's use him too. Right. So that's where I have the problem.
I get it. We talked about it right at the beginning. We talked about timeshares, and this is a 50-50 timeshare in my opinion. Yep. So I get it, man. It's just you don't really hear that one too often, but I'm right there with you now. You sold me a little bit on there.
Yeah. Look, just be cautious about it. That's all I'm really advising in the end, is that if you're going to take that first round pick and you've got an option between him and somebody you feel really certain about their situation, you know that they're not going to be competing, you should consider leaning that direction. Because I think you got a problem here. All right. So who do you have as your second?
Let's say you were down to, I don't know, Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon.
I prefer Chubb actually to Mixon. Okay. I'm not a huge. I had Mixon on my team when it was
Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry.
Year. Derrick Henry all day.
Okay.
On that one. I think that Derrick Henry. I think people are over speaking his volume from last year. He didn't eclipse 370 carries, which is the magical number for when you can guarantee injury and you can guarantee all kinds of concerns. Yeah. Between 300 and 369 carries. If the team didn't make the playoffs, then the next year that guy averages 15% fewer yards over the course of the season for the league's history. Like that's just the way it works. But they made the playoffs, so that doesn't apply actually. So it's a really, really
there's numbers for everything,
stat, right? Yeah,
there's numbers for there's statistics for everything.
Statistically speaking, but no, like there's like a league that's been around 100 years, and they've got a lot of statistics on this stuff, and it's crazy. Like if you see a guy go over 370 yards, like if he's not named Eric Dickerson, he's probably going to literally like lose a leg during the season.
Right,
it's just really guaranteed. If they're between 300 and 370 between there, and they don't make the playoffs, then the next year they're actually not going to get as many yards. And the reason that I'm all on that statistic is because of the guy I'm talking about next. But we're going to talk about him right after we get through your guy here.
Yes. So my guy, this is a tough one to say because of what team he plays for, but it's Marla Mack for the Indianapolis Colts. My Indianapolis Colts. Fantasy football calculator, I know. RB22, 5th pick in the 4th round. I mean, I think this would be great value.
Pick in the 4th round for a guy who's almost certainly in a timeshare.
Exactly. And if this was before the actual NFL drafts, then this is a great value. This is perfect for him. But you know what? The Colts went ahead and traded up to get Jonathan Taylor, who I think is the best running back in that class. Yeah, I don't know. The player went first.
Does that mean that they like him? I don't know.
They jumped over.
Does that mean that they have a plan for him?
Exactly. They jumped over the Jags. They
traded up and got a guy.
One pick before the Jags, not Jaguars.
Jaguars.
Jaguars. They did that because, well, Leonard Fournette's probably not going to be there much longer. But that was the Colts' worry, and they were like, "Why not? Let's just go get Jonathan Taylor out of running back Wisconsin."
If I can just interject really quickly, I can't wait to see the Leonard Fournette free agency frenzy happen because it's going to be crazy. You know it's going to be crazy. The dude's a volume eater. Like he doesn't break.
He's been banged up here. He's had,
but he still goes out there.
Yeah,
he still goes out there.
See, right? That's one of our undervalued type running backs in our opinions. Yeah, you may not like the guy or anything like that, or he plays for the Jags. So, but still, he gets the job done, man. He gets volume.
Yeah,
volume.
So, anyway, just as an aside.
Yeah, back to Marla Mack. Here's the thing, like this offensive line, we talked about the Colts line is one of the best in the league, if not the best, especially with run blocking. But he's never really taken off. Like he's never really been that RB1 that you've been looking for in fantasy. I mean, he's had flashes, but he's also been plagued by inconsistency and injuries in the past.
It sounds like your first guy that you were talking about in his career, Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
He never really took off. He never did. Like he had like one phenomenal season.
Exactly. Like he's had the
And then Alvin Kamara took over.
Yeah, the ability and the chances, but he never really took off, and that's kind of sad. But I mean, there's a reason why the Colts haven't extended Marla Mack. He's he's going in his contract year. They haven't extended him.
No, they don't need to.
No, they do have
unless something happens to Jonathan Taylor that's like catastrophic.
Yeah, I don't
that's
not going to happen. Hopefully, don't say that. Knock on wood. Knock on wood if you're with me. The Colts have a new quarterback, Phillip Rivers. We've talked about how much he loves checking down running backs. Marlon Mack doesn't catch the ball.
Yeah.
He's not really one that's been known to catch the ball. So that's not really in his favor either. They have Nyheim Hines. Jonathan Taylor can catch the ball. He's had some drops in the past for Jonathan Taylor, but I think that could be fixed with some coaching. So another thing, I was looking this up on Player Profiler. True yards per carry is 4.2 yards for Marlon Mack, and that ranked 27th. So once again, that's out behind this offensive line. And whenever I say true yards per carry, it's true yards per carry discounts all runs greater than 10 yards by factoring out the disproportionate impact of long runs. The metric rewards running back consistency. So basically, he was either going big runs or nothing.
Yeah.
So behind this kind of offensive line, you should always be picking up 4, 5, 6 yards. You know what I mean? But
unless you have Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback and the other team says you're not throwing the ball.
And then we're just going to stack the box and, so it could be different. It very much could be different. But one last little tidbit I have is he was 58th ranked in production premium. And that's another one of those really big metrics when it comes to running backs, and that isolates a player's situation agnostic efficiency. So basically it just compares the outcome of all pass attempts, carries, and targets to league average outcome in those same game situations. So the yard line, down, and distance. That's where that comes into play. And he just wasn't getting done when it comes to consistent production compared to the rest of the running backs in this league. Once again, it was in those high pressure situations of the goal line, 2-minute drills, the clock milking, is he
still on his rookie deal? What?
Yes, he is still on his rookie deal. Like, this is his 4th year, going into his 4th year. And
so he's like what, 25, 26?
He's 25 for most of the season, I believe. So he's still young, and he played most of the season last year. So it does hurt me. Once again, I'm a Colts fan. But whenever you draft a running back in the second round, the highest running back that the Colts have drafted since, I believe, Edgerrin James.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick, wasn't he?
He was 4th pick, but they haven't drafted another running back this early since then. They like Jonathan Taylor, and like you said, this is a true timeshare. This is a timeshare where it's going to be, they're going to split at the beginning, and then it's going to be Jonathan Taylor towards the end of the season.
Yeah. I don't see, like, the problem with Marlon Mack, as well as with Jonathan Taylor to some extent, so he's being overdrafted too, is that you're not going to get that full season out of them, right? It would be one thing if you're getting a guy who's performing his RB2 flex territory and he performs that way the whole year. If instead you're getting a guy who's like consistently RB2, but consistently only for about 6 weeks,
right,
and then he's gone, then you just lost him for the rest of the season. Basically, it's as though you had a guy get injured on your team, and now you have to replace him.
5th pick in the 4th round.
Yeah. So that's pretty costly to take that kind of risk there. So it
really is. I think the fantasy football calculator ADP is going to change on this one for sure when it gets closer to draft season. But we're going off the numbers that we have as of today.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go. Everybody, strap in. Hold on. I promise.
I feel like I always have to hold on every time we talk.
Look, I promise I'm not doing this to just be like contrary or to be inflammatory to get people to pay attention or something like that. Look, we're doing fine without that. We're not trying to clickbait you. I promise that's not why I picked this guy. I want you to hear me out on this and understand that I'm not saying he's trash. I'm saying he's just not going to have the year people are drafting him for. Okay. And that is Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah. He's right now fantasy football calculator running back 6, going 7th pick of the first round. He's fantasy pros running back 2. going 3rd pick of the first round. So
he's ahead of Saquon on Fantasy Pros?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So again, like, doesn't that sound a little bit too high when you consider the rest of what I'm talking about? And so here we go. Let's just start it off. Mike McCarthy, right? In his entire time as a head coach, so 13 seasons, we have a lot of information on him. He only had 2 seasons in which a running back averaged 19 or more carries a game. He only had 3 seasons in which it was more than 12 carries a game. So over 30% of the time, over 70% of the time, right? They're not even breaching 14 carries per game.
Wow.
In Zeke's career, he's had 1 season below 20 carries a game. That's it. That's the most recent season. Okay.
Wow.
Every season for him as well. Like, here, let me just run through this. Okay. He's only ever seen 1 time, even in the neighborhood of being under 20. Like, right. Okay. So you've got this guy, this coach who doesn't get guys near where Zeke is always for his whole career been. But let's expect the same output that Zeke's always had. Okay. Look, if Mike McCarthy drops him down to where he has before, and look, it's not like I'm cherry picking here. He had Ryan Grant, and the one time he let Ryan Grant get 19 yards or 19 carries per game, he made a Pro Bowl. He had Amon Green, who's in the Packers Hall of Fame. And he's the leading rusher for the Packers of all time. That's that guy, he let get 15 carries a game, right? He let Eddie Lacy, the one year that everybody realized, oh, Eddie Lacy's really good.
Right.
19 carries a game.
And that was before he ate the buffet.
But that's it. Look, I'm going to make it even worse for you. There's 2 years that Aaron Rodgers led this team in TDs rushing.
Jeez.
Okay. Now, what do you have in Dak Prescott, right? You've got a guy who actually can run the ball in from the
scrambles pretty well,
right?
Yeah. Or even design runs,
Yeah. So you've got a bottom half rushing schedule based on 2019 fantasy points allowed to the running back on the opponents that they're facing this year.
Yeah.
You've got an offensive line that lost Travis Frederick this year.
Yeah.
And look, you can't overstate the loss of the center of a zone run scheme that's one cut and go in a modified West Coast offense.
Yeah.
That literally the run game pivots around the center. And
I thought
you lost a guy.
Mike McCarthy was going to change everything that he's.
Oh yeah, he's going to change everything, right? He's going to change everything. He's going to change it right off the bat. That's why they went and made sure that they have 3 guys who are sufficiently solid wide receivers that you can run a West Coast offense. Yeah. He's going to change everything. He's going to run the guy more, right? That's why they kept a really, really athletic tight end who doesn't block and instead runs seam routes like every other tight end that Mike McCarthy ever targeted in the draft, right? And then they let go of Jason Witten, who's a really good blocking tight end who can also catch, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they're going to run the ball more. Definitely. Definitely. He's changed everything. Yeah. Look, you can add in more here. Look, it's a modified West Coast offense with 3 wide sets and an athletic tight end. You've got a recipe for a bust season for Zeke. I'm going to hit you even more here, okay? His TD totals are completely wacky, so you can't even predict what he is or who he is. You got 2016, he had 15 touchdowns as a rookie. 2017, 7. He was hurt, right? Or suspended, right?
Yeah.
2018, 6. 2019, 12. Okay?
2020.
Tell me whether or not you think that this is the year that Zeke says, I'm going to go get you 12 plus touchdowns with Mike McCarthy calling the plays, who got fired for calling 60+% of every game as pass plays. He led the league in pass plays called for like the last 3 years of his tenure in the Packers. Oh yeah. He had Aaron Jones. He had Eddie Lacy. He had James Starks. He had all of these guys who proved themselves to be really solid running backs at various points, and he wouldn't give him the ball. He just wouldn't give them
It
the ball.
wasn't just free Aaron Jones, just free running backs.
There were seasons that they had running backs who led the team in carries per game at 9. 9. I'm not joking.
7.
There were only 4 seasons or
Not
5
7.
seasons out of 13. Yeah, not 7. Out of 13 seasons, there were, I think, 4 or 5 seasons that were double digits for any player, any running back on that team. Okay, and like I said, you might be saying, "Oh well, Zeke's a much better running back." Ahman Green was the all-time leading rusher for the Packers when Mike McCarthy walked through the door, and he gave the guy 14 carries a game. Yeah.
He wants to fire that pigskin.
Yeah, fire that pigskin. Look, not only that, Zeke has had a decrease every single year of his career in yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
He's down to 84 yards per game last year. You add in all this, look, that history shows a guy goes over 300 yards or 300 carries in a season, and the team doesn't make the playoffs. He has a 15% reduction in yards gained the next year. And so that would drop him down to right around 1,100 yards, which isn't going to be terrible, right? That's not terrible.
No.
Unless you're taking him second in the draft.
Right. Or even third or fourth or fifth. Yeah.
Especially if you look at it and you say, Mike McCarthy's not going to hand him the ball in the red zone because he doesn't like running it in. He doesn't. He goes 4 wide in the red zone. Yeah, because there's so much room for 4 wide receivers to operate, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, if his TD total falls backwards to where Mike McCarthy's probably going to have him, I don't expect double digits. And then you lose 15% of what he had last year, which is also a reduction from his first year and his third year. His second year, I'm discounting it because he didn't get over 1,000 yards because he was out for 6 games for suspension.
Right.
Mike McCarthy has never had a running back have more than 11 TDs in a season. So why would Zeke average higher than that under Mike McCarthy? He's only had 2 seasons where a running back had double-digit touchdowns. Jeez. Aaron Rodgers even led the team in rushing TDs. That was in 2016. That's recent. It's recent. He led the team with rushing TDs with 5. 5. Jeez. So, look, I'm not saying that Ezekiel Elliott or Nick Chubb are terrible players. I'm not saying that they are the cause of their own problems. I'm not. I'm saying that their situation is not favorable
their
for
offensive
them.
schemes.
And if you're going to spend a first round pick, you have to follow the ethos of spending on guys early is about getting guys who you can plan on being consistent. You can plan on getting what you paid for them out of them.
Yeah.
Neither of these guys, in my opinion, you will get what you paid for out of them. So if you draft them, you are going to still get a solid guy who's going to perform pretty well for you, but do not plan on them being an RB1. If you get an RB1 season out of these guys, you've gotten lucky, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. That's both of them. What do you have to add there? You want to throw in anything? I mean, I told you who I had picked. I didn't give you any of the reasons or whatever.
You didn't. But, I always lean to you whenever it comes to anything Mike McCarthy, of course, because you're a Packers fan through and through, and you've had to see that disaster for many years. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you can say as much as you want that you're going to change the way you play call or anything like that. Until you actually do it, then we'll believe it. So maybe this is one of those years where you just want to hold on Ezekiel Elliott. If it's down to him or somebody else, let's just go ahead and take the other guy and let's see what he does in this offense. If he blows up, he blows up.
I'll tell you.
There's also the probability of him busting, like you're talking about, and falling into the RB2 category.
I think I would take Chubb over Zeke.
Wow.
If I had to pick between the two, I think I would take Chubb over Zeke.
He's
got a lot less wear on him.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
Well, I think that he'll at least get in the teens for attempts per game.
Yeah, because there's still.
I can't guarantee that with Ezekiel Elliott. I cannot.
Was it with Mike McCarthy? Was it something where he just had a rotation of running backs coming in and out, or is it just the fact that he threw 60% of the time?
They would not hand the ball off.
And they just weren't that fast, like up tempo type offense, and they still weren't running that many plays.
They weren't. I mean, it's a West Coast offense. It was a modified West Coast offense. Yeah. They just were not. He would not hand off the ball. There were games that he went over like 80% were pass plays.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Even Aaron Rodgers was pissed off about that.
Yeah. I mean, I sore arm, 60 throws.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? 60 throws and you're not playing for Cliff Kingsbury?
Right. Because you had 100 plays and you had 60 throws. That's fine. Yeah. That made sense. Yeah. That's not too bad. But you had 75 plays and you threw it 60 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also Cliff Kingsbury is only calling like 4 different pass plays, right? They're all off the same basic scheme.
We're going off topic now.
Yeah, we are. Way off.
Let's wrap this
up. All right,
up.
so you got anything to add?
No.
You just think I'm crazy out there? I hope people made it to the end of the video so that they got to hear. I'm not trying to tease. I'm not trying to like be a clickbait person here, guys. This is legit. I believe this actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't go there. We're not going to waste your time. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up here really quickly. Next time we talk with you, we're going to talk about our wide receiver busts, and we'll get through those quickly as well.
Yep.
Once again, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure that you click the bell so you get notified every time we upload the best fantasy football podcast on the internet. Thanks for being a fan of the Upside, and we will catch you next time.
See you guys.
Bye.